Hello everyone, we're back again. It's me, Jimmy Cultist. We're doing a turn-based RPG video. It seems like this series is never done, which is alright. It means we have lots of content. But last time I covered how to make encounters with enemies in the wild. However, there are a few things I would like to add to that to make it run more smoothly. There were some things I left out. For instance, the enemies are emitted, so a lot of the direct wiring we had hooked up is no longer useful. So we're going to have to think, less of a wire sense and more of a wireless sense using tags and zones. But we'll get right down to business. First thing that's first, I want to modify some stuff I was doing with the characters and their stats display. I want to have a handy chip that contains all of the player's stats. We already have 3 separate chips that contain their individual stats, but I want to put them in here for a reason. Basically, during cutscenes, I would like it so that the stats don't show up, because currently they do. You'll see the HP. You'll not see everything else, like you won't see the blue background and all that, but you'll see the HP and stuff, and that's a little sloppy, don't you think? So all we're going to do is go to Shut UI, and instead of shutting down all these chips individually, or turning each one of these tags off and creating lots of invisible wires, we're just going to shut off the power to this microchip. And you're probably like, well, am I going to go into all these animations and just click off the power? No, not necessary. Just copy. Just copy with L1 and R2 and stick it on the timeline. Oh, leave that open, of course. We're going to need to transfer them to the next group of characters. This is just a little quality of life change. It's not the main subject of our video. What we're really covering mostly is the enemies and how they interact with the players now that we're emitting them, rather than, the other way we were doing it before, where they were just in the scene from the very beginning. Fun fact about emitters. Once they emit something, any direct connection from the character to logic in the scene is usually severed. So if you have wires running to something that's emitted, you might as well pretend those wires don't exist, because they aren't going to when the thing is actually present in the scene. Just a little heads up, for all you people who are making cutscenes or whatever it is you're making, if there's a direct connection. Anyway, that should solve our little UI problem. Now we're going to go to targeting and work on another thing. Here it is. I have trouble seeing it on this black background. But basically all we're going to be doing here is taking out a little zone labeled Can Attack. And we're going to set it to In Scene. Now you may be wondering, Jimmy, what is this for? Well, I'll explain it quite simply. Currently, as it exists, our characters can attack thin air. It won't waste a turn, and it really doesn't mean anything. However, it's sloppy. A character attacking thin air, if there's nothing in their target, if you're not switched on to an actual targeted NPC or enemy, you're just going to swat at the air, and while it isn't necessarily a game breaker, it's just sloppy. So I want to, you know, kind of fix that. And this is a part of that process. All you gotta do is just copy out these little zones. Make sure to set them to detect tag. And this is gonna create our little, you know, thing. There is one other small thing I have to get to, now that I just remembered it. Should be in controls. It concerns the UI. These numbers, the HP numbers, they currently exist on the bottom layer of our stats. What I mean by that is they aren't showing up because they're below the layers of everything else. So just put them 4 or 5, I don't know, maybe 10 layers just to be safe. That way they're ahead of everything else and you can see them and they're not invisible. Again, would look pretty sloppy if that was the case. And now we're going to go to another place, which is attack. Actions and attack. Now why are we going to attack? Well, back here in targeting, you know how we created that zone that says can attack? Well, we're going to be limiting our attack from here for all the different players. Luckily, it's a very simple process and won't require a lot of effort. Basically, just stamp out a keyframe, shut off the power, and one thing you want to do is always make sure this is on. Stick it on there, so when the attack chip is active, this will also be active. And now, we're going to stick down this little tag here, and we're going to label it can attack. I made it uppercase. Always be careful though that they match. Make sure this is uppercase. Yes, it's uppercase. They match. Same spacing, same everything. Otherwise it won't work. Alright. That should do it. I'm not going to go through the trouble to test it because I'm pretty sure this will work. I suppose we could test just in case, but I have other more important fish to fry, so we can maybe test that later. We're going to be heading to the enemy now. Or perhaps it's enemy actions. Yes, enemy actions. There's a little bit of a complex code of things we got to set up here. First, we need to take out a zone. Set it to detect only a foe. Gonna go ahead and put it on visible and non-collidable in case we do funny stuff later. And set it to label, of course. And since we're on the first enemy, we'll want to put it in the position that he appears. But basically what this is going to do is it's going to track who is present and who is not. Because if we have randomly generated enemies, their attack cycle also needs to reflect the randomly generated pattern. Which is what I'm mainly going to be working on. We're also going to need a little, what do you call it? Timeline. Set it to play once. And we're going to put 3 switches on here. We're going to label them red. Maybe that's burgundy, if you're more technically minded. But yes, basically this is what we're going to do. And this is our enemy's attack, which we're going to turn to wireless, but first I want to get this ironed out because it can be a little bit confusing. Alright, we're gonna have to go to one other thing now. Let's go ahead and stick these in here. And connect these to the power of these nodes. This is an area where I space out a bit because it gets complex. Anyway, let's go ahead. We gotta refurbish this chip a little bit, because some things are going to be changing. First thing that's going to be changing is we no longer trigger them directly with a switch. Now we trigger them with one of these babies, which is a zone. Gonna label it attack. Just to make it safe, we're gonna label it E attack, just in case we ever need the normal attack label for our players. It's gonna be a square, and we're gonna do this rather similar to how we set up the previous bunch, you know, these. This is going to be our return chip for when they're done fighting. We're going to want to make sure it's aligned properly. Go ahead and delete these. Might as well copy these out, although we're going to have to realign the position, of course. Hopefully this all works as intended. Quick refresher, these are to trigger the enemy's actions wirelessly, as I mentioned earlier. Alright. Now we're going to want to go here. This is basically, once our team is finished, this is the enemy go sign, which means we start activating this timeline. And it plays through the set events. Now, if this is all working properly, they should be triggered in due process. Now we're going to take out a switch. Now, what does this switch do? No, it doesn't play Nintendo. What it does is it's going to set off the next enemy in sequence after the attack is complete. We're going to go ahead and stick this on here. And in this final one, we'll go ahead and put this, just in case they generate out of order. Alright. I think there's one other thing we're gonna need. Oh yes, I think I know what it is now. Move these down. We're gonna have to create a node. And you may be wondering, why are we doing this redundancy? Is this necessary? Unfortunately, it is. The reason why is we want these nodes constantly active. These ones, on the other hand, can be turned off at will. And the reason why we want them turned off at will is we're going to put a little keyframe, stretch it out, just press the, up on the D-pad if you want to stretch that out. But we're going to have to turn off these inputs. That means that if Mr. Number 1 is here, Mr. Number 2 and 3 are going to have to wait their turn. Just be sure it doesn't overlap with this, because this plays Mr. Number 2 or Number 3. This way, even if you have a randomly generated outcome, they'll always play in a certain order. Now if we play Mr. Middle, he'll shut off Mr. 1 and Mr. 3. Handy. And if we play Mr. 3, he, of course, will shut off Mr. 1 and Mr. 2. It can get a little confusing working with these inputs. I don't blame you if you get lost in this sort of thing. But if you just keep a cool head, you should be able to remember it all. Alright, I think we're ready. We're gonna have to change some things on the enemy too, because the enemy... Not this one, this one. When the enemy retreats, at least from what I've observed in testing, he doesn't really go back to his position properly, and that's because this little thing here is not long enough. It needs to be longer so that we make sure he goes back to his proper place. It may involve a little trial and error. By the way, we can delete that. Since it's a direct wire, it's useless anyway. But how long this should be is something you're going to want to test. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at this and see if it turns out... Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, we're forgetting our little handy-dandy tag. Earlier we set up those three, those three inputs to generate an attack, but we haven't even put down the proper tag. This will just, start up his attack. It's basically the same process we did earlier, only without direct wiring. Oh, that's strange. The stats are visible. Oh, I know what it is. Let's go in here. Shut HUD off means you. Oh, wait a minute. Go back. I noticed something. This is an action recorder, so you want to go to keyframe. Always remember to do that, otherwise it'll record it differently. I saw it moving up the bar, and I was like, oh, that's not normal. Alright, here we go. Let's go ahead and begin this encounter. Now, that fellow started off early. How is this happening? That doesn't seem normal. Is there something not quite working correctly? Set to detect foe. Oh, I think I know what it is. We've gotten a little confused here. Basically what's going on is these things are playing before they're supposed to. Just delete this one leading out of here. As I said, this configuration can get a little bit confusing, but basically we have to create an input where when they're not present it can't play, but also when they are present it will play. I think that's the proper order. Otherwise they just instantly attack without provocation. No, we don't seem to be able to attack. That's very strange. Also, we're going to make a little modification, because clearly our HP is coming through in a way it should not. I think we used too many layers. We gotta have it a little bit below the layer of attack options and magic. Let's try 5. Did we miss one? We missed one. Just set this little fellow to 5 and that should solve the problem. Alright, now we can't attack, and I have a funny feeling I know why. It's this fellow here. I made a mistake. It's not meant to power it off, it's meant to power it on. So click this off, and then click it on again, and then once you've scoped outside the keyframe, turn this off. Might be a little confusing, but basically you have to have it so that this thing is inoperable unless you get the can attack signal. Alright, let's go ahead and try it out. We're going to try to attack. We can't. It's working as intended. Now we'll attack the enemy. Now it seems like all that's working perfectly. He should be attacking though, and I'm not seeing that. Let's move these ahead a little, maybe that's the problem. Alright, how come he is not attacking? He should be attacking. We got the power on going to here. Oh, we forgot to connect these, that's why. How stupid. I've just forgot to connect it. Anyway, now we should be able to do this properly. I do want more enemies too, because I want to see if the order works properly. See, one enemy is good, but I would like probably two. So let's do it till the random order favors us. Alright, 2. Go ahead and get these attacks out of the way. We're also going to work on a system where after you defeat the enemies, it goes back to the turn cycle of the, you know, the goodies. We may have already done that, but we're going to need to do a new one. Alright, they're attacking. He's attacked, so the other fellow should go next. Now that was a little weird, but I think I know why that happened. If you're wondering why they switched position, that's why I was talking about this earlier. We want this to be longer, but not too long. Otherwise it'll overstay its welcome, and he'll move into the position of his friends. We'll go ahead and test it just to make sure that's what's happening. Wouldn't want to have an oversight like that go unchecked. We're going to need 2 enemies, though, to properly test it, so let's go to the random, randomizer. Alright, attack. Pretty weak for such a large Gatling gun, I've got to say. It does very little damage. It was just for, demonstration's sake, though. I'd probably make it a little bit bulkier if I was making a real game. Alright, attack. Now let your brother go ahead. And he's not switching position. That's good. We solved the problem. Now that's a simple system for creating an enemy attack pattern, and it should work no matter which one of these fellows appears in which order, so that's pretty useful. At least I hope you found it useful. I'm going to give a quick shout out to our little monthly supporters on Coffee, and then we'll have the outro. There they go, or there he goes. It's probably more accurate. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss another video. If you wish to support our earnest insanity, you can check the links in the description to donate or buy merch. Until next time, goodbye.